This meditation was designed to take you on a journey through your body to let you know that you are safe. It's safe to change, and your body knows how to heal. To begin, close your eyes. Take a deep breath and quiet the chatter of your mind. Take another deep breath and tune into your body. As you breathe, breathe love into your body and let it surround you. Imagine yourself looking into your eyes with love. And now imagine having a conversation with yourself. Just allow yourself to let go and say, I am willing to let go. I release all tension. I release all fear. I release all anger. I release all guilt. I release all sadness and let go of old limitations. I let it go, and I am at peace. I am at peace with myself and the process of life. I am safe. My body is a glorious place to live. I rejoice that I have chosen this particular body because it is perfect for me in this lifetime. It is the perfect size, shape, and color. It serves me so well. I marvel at the miracle that is my body. I choose the healing thoughts that create and maintain my healthy body and make me feel even better. I cooperate with my body's nutritional needs and feed my body delicious healing foods. I drink clean, clear water and allow it to flow through my body, washing away all impurities. I deserve to be healed, and my healthy cells grow stronger every day. I am safe. My body knows how to heal itself, and I trust life to support my healing in every way. When I need support, I attract the right people to help me heal. Every hand that touches my body is a healing hand, including mine. Every day and in every way, I am growing healthier and healthier. I love and appreciate my beautiful body.
My digestion starts with my mouth. I love my mouth. I nourish myself by taking in new ideas. I prepare new concepts and healthy foods for digestion and assimilation. I learn to choose new foods that are delicious and supportive of my body. I have a great taste for life and for healthy food. I choose to eat slowly, to savor my food, and chew well so that I can digest with ease. This is how much I love my body. I love and appreciate my beautiful mouth. I love my stomach. It is with joy that I digest the experiences of life and the healthy, delicious food I eat. Life agrees with me, and I choose nourishing foods that agree with my body. I easily assimilate the food I eat at every meal. I choose the thoughts and the food that glorify my being. I trust life to feed me that which I need. I am good enough as I am, and I am worth taking the time to digest my food. I assimilate this thought, and I make it true for me. I love and appreciate my beautiful stomach. I love my liver. I let go of everything I no longer need, and I joyfully release all irritation, criticism, and condemnation. My liver knows how to cleanse and heal my body. Everything in my life is in divine right order. Everything that happens is for my highest good and greatest joy. I find love everywhere in my life. I love and appreciate my beautiful liver. I love my intestines. I am an open channel for good to flow in and through me. Freely, generously, and joyfully. I create new habits of choosing foods that assimilate well in my body, keeping me energized, healthy, nourished, and strong. I willfully release all thoughts and things that clutter and clog. All is normal, harmonious, and perfect in my life. I live only in the ever-present now. I choose the thoughts that keep me open and receptive to the flow of life. I have perfect intake, assimilation, and elimination. I love and appreciate my beautiful intestines.
I choose the best food for my body, and I bless this food with love. I love selecting foods that are nutritious and delicious. Planning healthy meals is a joy, and I can easily make anything taste good. My body loves the way I choose the perfect foods for myself. Meal times are happy times, and my body heals and strengthens with every bite I take. I am one with life, and life loves me and supports me. Therefore, I claim for myself perfect, vibrant health at all times. My body knows how to be healthy, and I cooperate by feeding it healthy foods and beverages, and exercising in ways that are enjoyable to me. I listen with love to the thoughts that I think about my health. I open myself to the wisdom within, knowing that life will bring me everything I need. Everything I need to know to create.
Good morning and welcome to Sunday gathering at First Center for Spiritual Living. We are at 204 West 84th Street, and it's a beautiful day today at the center, and I'm sure it's beautiful where you are too. I can see your smiling faces. It's a beautiful day. Happy 4th of July. We're happy for our independence and our freedom. And before we go into what we have planned for you today, we'd like to remind everyone that we have a class that will be coming up July 13, 3 p.m. And the registration fee is ongoing. It's $130 to register for the class. And we have our party coming up next Sunday, immediately after the service. We invite everyone to come to the center, 204 West 84th Street. And we're happy to have you all around and celebrate and have fun together. And yes, I'd like to invite our very own Reverend Judith for the opening affirmative prayer. Thank you.
Good morning. Spiritual mind treatment is our form of prayer that is assertive, expectant, and affirmative. It is those things because we know that we're speaking into a creative law that responds to us in kind. So let's just relax. Go within to that divine presence, to Spirit, who is our very truth, our very life, our very being, our allness, and know this truth about ourselves in our acceptance of the oneness with this one. There is but one. That one is God. It is the only power, the only presence, the only principle. It is everywhere evenly present. And it knows and loves and experiences its magnificence by means of the centers within itself, each one here. Each is in their entirety all that Spirit is. And in this knowing and this accepting and in this intent to live from this awareness, whatever seemed to have been a problem of any kind, whatever its duration in the past, is no longer active. It cannot be, because knowing the truth sets us free to live the conscious living knowingness of spirit in us as us. We are its power. We are its love. We are its peace. We are its beauty. We are its joy. We are its intelligence. We are its love. We are its life. This is the truth of who and what we are. It is already expressing to the level of our awareness, and we are raising our acceptance, our awareness to know and to live from that highest level. And we do so with ease when we rely on that divine presence within that is always saying yes. So we say yes and thank you. This is the word declared within the law. The law is always saying yes. So I know that it is done. And for this I give thanks. And so it is.
Thank you so much, Reverend Judith. Before we invite Dr. Greg for the lesson, I'd like to let us know that Reverend Judith will be taking the community time, and the title, it's Flex Your Spiritual Muscle. I personally look forward to this lesson. And Dr. Greg's lesson today, it's freedom. But before we get into that lesson, I would just want us to watch just one video clip, and we'll invite Dr. Greg for the lesson.
We're born into a strange time, a time that tries our souls. You can think of ourselves today, and you might think, gosh, we're born into a strange time, a time that tries our souls. Whatever it is that goes on within us that we contemplate all day long is what shows up in our life. We want to remember the importance and the value of self-discovery and listening to the conversation that's going on within you. I was told when I was learning this teaching that every thought we think is creating our future. Because whatever it is that lives inside of you in terms of your hour-by-hour conversation, I want you to realize that you are creating your life with that conversation. We have a tendency to think that all the things that happened all day long and all this past week were about other people, but that's really not the case. It's really always about us. We want to have the courage to challenge our thought processes, and we want to have the courage to challenge our messaging, the messaging we have to ourselves. What you dwell upon and what you think about is creating your life. Or using social media, what you're tweeting about all day long is creating your life. When you establish peace within, when you're working this teaching and living the affirmative life, and you know that everyone is doing the best they can with what they know, then nothing and no one really bothers you too much, because you realize all is well with you, and that people are doing the best that they can. When you establish kindness within your own mind, your own heart, your own being, you can't really act any other way in the outside world, because that's who you are. The author Alan Cohen wrote, "Don't wait for the world to change, please. Change your mind about the world and see the good that's in the world." It's real easy doing it the other way. We are the applauders of life. Those of us who really get this teaching, those of us who are learning to live the affirmative life and live with treatment, and why would you let yourself get off track reacting to stuff that just doesn't even exist in the mind of God? Ours is a solitary path. We do our work in mind, we do our work in consciousness. In his book, In Tune with the Infinite Again, Ralph Trine said over 133 years ago, we were born into this strange time, a time that tries our souls. We're born into a world where there's a lot of stuff going on, but that stuff, you can notice it, what you give your attention to. I've been for many years, for several decades at least, saying to myself, everything is perfect. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to First Center for Spiritual Living in New York City. It's nice to see you all here on the Zoom call, and I want to say hi to the people on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook Live who are joining us each week too. If you're watching us live on one of the other platforms and you'd like to join in our service, because afterwards we have a time where we interact and there's a community time, all you have to do is send us a message and we can send you the Zoom information. I have a quote. If you don't feel like you fit into this world, it's because you are here to create a new one. And that was by Rose Kennedy. So I want to say, first of all, happy Independence Day, 4th of July, for those of you who are here in this country. It's an important day here anyway. July 4th has been a federal holiday since long before most of us were around. Well, some of us, right? 1941 anyway. And the tradition of Independence Day goes, and all of its celebrations go way back into the 18th century. If you don't feel, oh, here's the same quote by Rose Kennedy. So let's pass on to the talk itself, today's lesson, freedom. Everything about us has been created for us to live, move, and have our being in freedom and joy. And many of us don't live our lives that way. So as we come together at the center each week, we're going to show you ways to unbind yourself from your agreements. You've heard us talk about the four agreements, the book by Don Miguel, how we, one way or another, we agreed to do all kinds of things since the time we're children. And much of the stuff that we've learned, much of the programming isn't helpful. I mean, some of it is, but a lot of it is not. So join in with us today. I see a few people signing in. You can become members by sending us a message. We have a growing virtual membership, as well as people showing up here in person each week. There's a few more coming back post-COVID, which is really wonderful. July 4th is tomorrow. So it's today. My goodness, my notes are wrong. Yesterday when I was preparing it with. So a little bit of the history. On the July 2nd in 1776, there was a Congress. It was called the Continental Congress. And back in those days, we were 13 colonies. We didn't have the states or most of the western part of the country. And in this Congress, we drafted the Declaration of Independence. And most of you can recall it was written by Thomas Jefferson for the most part. So we were colonies of Britain. From 1776 to the present day, July 4th has been celebrated as the birth of American independence, as the birth of our country. We didn't really, at that point, we hadn't fought Britain and all that, but that's the day we declared it. The 4th of July has become a major focus today of leisure activities, family get-togethers, and of all kinds of parties and fireworks. Before the 4th of July, wherever we think of the 4th of July, we're thinking of freedom and democracy, freedom from tyranny. Many of us in our New Thought movement, many of our leaders emerged out of that time. Emerson is the one that I always think of. Ralph Waldo Emerson was a great influence on the New Thought movement itself. And he was one of the most influential people of the time. His love was the idea of the individual thinker. He was always postulating that, God help us when a thinker is let loose upon the planet, nothing's safe. So he would be somebody advocating that you begin to trust yourself, turn off your televisions, or at least educate yourself on the different views and different versions of stories that are on television, for example. He would suggest you be reading different newspapers, not just let yourself be programmed. I really loved learning about him since the time I was 18, 19 years old and all through my life, because he spoke of the power of the individual and the freedoms that we have in our relationship with life and with spirit. He famously said, "Go alone. Go alone and think for yourself. Don't let other people think or decide for you. Just because it's on TV, just because somebody says so, just because someone's trending, and there's some movie star, some celebrity, some politician." He would strongly suggest listen to which is within you. Don't let yourself get programmed by radio, television, or even our own families if you can avoid it. That's a tough one because we've all been programmed by our families. You have access, direct access to creative intelligence, to all good, something we teach every single week. Please begin to understand that you have within you what you need to make decisions. You have everything you need within you to make decisions. He suggested to refuse the good norms. Had to think about that. So good norms would be the commonly accepted thoughts of society. Refuse the good norms, the thoughts of the masses, the groupthink. Refuse to believe everything you hear on the radio or everything today that you hear by the TV anchors who no longer report the news, but report opinion. Turn the channels, listen to things from different places, listen to Europe, listen to different stations. Think for yourself. I was suggesting that, I am suggesting that we have access to a higher authority. We have direct access to creative intelligence, and you can trust it. Emerson dared us to love the presence within without a mediator. I don't need to ask you or anyone, my father, the priest, a darn person, what to think or what to feel. And that would be the spirit of Emerson. Go to that sacred place within you. On Sunday evening, about 153 years ago, it's a few years back, Ralph Waldo Emerson, I think it was the 4th of July weekend, or within a day or two, he was in his early 30s, presented a talk to a graduating class at Harvard in Boston. In that talk, a little bit after the 4th of July, that talk helped establish him as a major voice for the transcendental movement. The transcendental movement, by the way, rejects the opinions of educational institutions and group thinking in favor of the individual intuitive thought within us all, and the role of nature in helping us to understand the divine. His words were a shock to the mainstream religion and thinking at that time. It caused a bunch of uproar, that particular talk that he did at Harvard. People are not used to thinking for themselves, not then and not now. Albert Camus used to speak of that, and Bill Tolliver, my teacher, he was so irreverent, the Reverend Bill. He said, the masses are, I'll let you figure out the rest of it. He was always suggesting in our classes to wake up and start thinking for yourself and stop being like a lemming, just following, just begin to know that you know. Emerson's remarks were so radical that he wasn't invited back to Harvard, I think his 30s, until he was an older man, elderly. And then he came back as the great elder statesman, but it took decades. By then he was acclaimed the world over. He became a solo lecturer and spoke to audiences all over the world on the concept of independence, and specifically individual self-reliance. That was the basis of most of his written work and his talks. It was rare for him to present these lessons in churches at the time because the churches were not ready for Emerson. The churches were caught up in dualistic thought. The churches were caught up in bad and good and right and wrong and all of that. And Emerson was so far ahead of all those notions because, as we would know here, there is no good or bad in the mind of God. Everything is consciousness at play. Everything is unfolding in consciousness. Everything that everyone is doing everywhere has nothing to do with good and bad. It has to do with where people are in consciousness, and consciousness is always unfolding. So from his mind, there's no good and there's no evil. Emerson knew what we know here, that there is one power and one energy back of creation, and there is nothing else. God and I in space alone, wrote Ella Wheeler Wilcox in her famous poem, The Conversation. The religious institutions, for the most part, were threatened by his clarity. A lot of religions have been threatened by the clarity of our movement. They would say back when I was a younger person, oh my God, you're a cult, you're this, you're that, you're everything in the world, because we don't need all of that stuff. We don't need to be saved. We're not looking for anybody to rescue us from anything other than what we need to be rescued from is our history, his story. We need to be rescued from the stuff within us that holds us back. The religious institutions, again, were threatened by the clarity of Emerson. Emerson remains one of the greatest thinkers of that whole century. I've been studying him since I was 18. I mean, it's a little bit of work getting through his work, but it's well worth every bit of the effort. For the churches of those days and the institutions, who and what could they save if there was only one power in operation? Who could they save you from? We could spend an afternoon or a year studying Emerson, and it always would be a joy and always breathtaking, but it's a bit of a journey. Emerson spoke of our oneness, familiar term. We talk about it every single week, every single Thursday, every single Sunday. One power, one love, one creative intelligence. There is that source within us, each of us, and each of us are individualizations of that source. We are connected to it and with it, whether we like it or not. It's just the truth of who we are. And this is the reason we are able to perceive the laws of the soul. The laws of the soul are timeless and they're absolute, meaning you can't manipulate it. You pay for everything in spiritual coin. You don't get away with anything. This is why we will never submit, because we are one with infinite life, one with infinite energy, every single one of us. All of life is unfolding in everyone perfectly and all the time. This power, this intelligence will not be fooled or subject to current trending opinions, influencers in social media, or whatever darn authority coming from governments or institutions or external circumstances. We teach, and Emerson taught, oneness, one power, one love, one intelligence in you. Goodness and evil are ideas of humankind, not of our source, not of God, and not of whoever. And whoever embodies the consciousness of either is rewarded or punished by their belief in whatever it is that they believe in. So if there's evil in the world, it's born of a belief, and it's not the truth of God. In other words, if you have a consciousness that's very negative, and you come from separation, you come from what's wrong and what's bad and who's bad and what's bad, if that's where you come from, all the woes of the world, if that's what lives inside of you, you get to be right. You'll be creating that reality, but it's not the reality of God. It's your reality. It's a subjective reality, and it's not of truth. If you're practicing unenlightened behavior and unenlightened thinking, you'll be punished and robbed by your own practice. So you're created. I love a line that simply answers that from the Course in Miracles, which is, I could see peace instead of this. So wherever you are in any given day, if you're in some story about anything, you want independence, and you're all wrapped up in reaction, you do have the ability to see peace instead of whatever it is. So there's not an external force or energy acting upon you ever. This is always an example of your consciousness playing out. It's all about you in that sense. It's always your consciousness playing out. I think I was about 40 in this teaching. That's like a long time ago, when I was told, in truth, there's nothing outside of you. So all those fingers that were being pointed at everybody about all the things they were doing wrong, you know, it's kind of like you can point all you want. You got three back coming back at you. So it's all about you and your creations. Are you happy with what you've been creating? Are you happy with your use of power, your personal power? So there's no external force, no God above or outside or devils or any of that stuff acting upon you. The devil hasn't made you do a darn thing, and nor has God or anyone else. This is always something that it's always about you. Consciousness is playing out by means of you and your thoughts and thinking. The person who has a sense of being really connected to source and coming from a place of deep self-realization is going to be openly rewarded in just about every way you can imagine. The way you see is what you get. What appears to be rewards and punishments are in reality the effects of consciousness. And they have nothing to do with who's good and who's bad and who's right or wrong. We, each of us, are God to the degree that we are conscious of our connection with this indwelling spirit. As we evolve and learn, as we learn to live the affirmative life, as we practice seeing the God or the good, as we keep practicing bringing that into the moment and seeing what's possible and what's wonderful, as we do this practice, we are the cheerleaders after all, those of us who practice this teaching of life everywhere. We have very little to say about what's wrong because we know that everybody is doing the best they can. So as we practice, we begin to surrender lesser ideas, and we are becoming beings that are more and more trusting life and trusting the process of life. There's an inner guidance within each of us, and we can trust it. We can trust it. I remember being told when I was a young student, you know on some level, and you know that you know. Please do not look to your right or left or ask anybody what the heck to do. There's something within you that always knows what to do. Please don't tell anybody you don't know what to do, because it's a lie. You absolutely know what to do. Don't hide out in those places of I don't know and I don't know. There is that which is within you that absolutely knows. And let yourself sit and ask of yourself these questions, and you'll always be guided. You couldn't have a closer relationship to spirit. It's with you all the time. It speaks through you. As you evolve, as I evolve, as we all evolve and develop our consciousness and acquire higher degrees of self-realization, we begin to have insight into reality and to our capabilities. As we awaken, as we wake up and come into a greater self-realization, we begin to act and use our power in accordance with the workings of the universe. See, the thing is, nothing happens without you. So we do the work. If you want to have a changed life, we do the work. Our efforts to understand and practice the teaching, practice living with positive expectancy, are reinforced, and they're openly rewarded again. They're rewarded with manifestation after manifestation, or some of you might know the word demonstration. As you do the work, So we keep practicing the presence and knowing we're connected with this one life and it's responding to us. And as we really bring it inward and say, I'm taking it back to myself, I'm creating this person to be this, I'm creating this situation. When you bring it back to yourself and realize, all of life is a reflection of what I understand, you will be openly rewarded. You will demonstrate great good because you're using your power and you're not blaming your life or making your life about anyone else, or what they're saying or what they're doing. You're not listening to what's trending. You're not listening to what's on TV. You are not being influenced because you know that you have within you everything you need and that you're being guided all the time. We are practitioners here. We attend classes. We look forward to being in class on every Thursday and Sunday. We want to plug into this intelligence and we want to commune with great minds. And we don't want to be in groupthink, and we don't want to be into the thoughts of ain't it awful and poor me and all of society that has the crab in the barrel effect trying to pull you down. You're not somebody that can be pulled down. You're here to shine. You're here to evolve. You're here to grow. You're here to see the good. We live the affirmative life, and this consciousness is openly rewarded, as I said, for the third time. Emerson asserts that the human soul, in its ability to elevate itself, has the power to determine whether it will experience heaven on earth or hell. You have the power to determine whether you will experience heaven or hell in your day-to-day life. There's nothing predetermined, by the way, and there's nothing stopping you. So starting here, starting now, you could experience what? Bliss, happiness, joy, heaven. It is entirely up to you. Emerson suggests goodness is real, while evil, which is thought of as the absence of goodness, is a no thing. It's nothing in and of itself. It's a false idea. A few from every age, I remember being told 40 years ago, will discover Ralph Waldo Emerson. And I think that's true. I mean, everybody from every age that I know has always read them, but very few understand the consciousness that was in Ralph Waldo Emerson. That would be like trying to understand the consciousness that was in Jesus the Christ. It's a self-realized person who knows what they know. And they're not going to make themselves the exception to the rule. They're going to be talking about the truth that they know. And you can have what they have. It's very available to you, except everything within you fights it. Everything within you goes towards the story. So as you come to this teaching week by week, you're courageous and fearless because you're willing to take a look and you're willing to change the greater ideas, the true ideas. You're willing to trade and embrace the great ideas and let go of the lesser. And this is where you will find your independence. So on Independence Day, you are the ultimate authority in your own creativity. I'm going to offer you a little writing from Ernest Holmes at this time. He wrote this piece called The Spiritual Meaning of Freedom. And it is just as fitting today as it was in 1937. Ever since the dawn of civilization, 100,000 years ago or more, I don't know where he got his dates, ever since people began to grasp the significant fact that they were individual beings in a universe that seemed to be more or less hostile to them, the entire search of the human mind, its whole preoccupation has been to get free from bondage, oppression, evil, to get free from the shackles that people have put on themselves of lack, want, superstition, pain, disease, poverty, free from the fear of the hereafter. That was Ernest Holmes. I remember reading a book that really impacted me a lot when I was a younger guy, and it was won the Pulitzer Prize. It was called The Denial of Death by Theodore Becker, I think. And in that book, the author was saying, people do everything, and they build buildings and name things after themselves and leave legacies, and they do everything because they have this inner fear of dying. They don't know what's going to happen. So it's a big avoidance thing that people do. Louise Hay later wrote, people are so alienated from themselves. They have such a lack of self-knowledge. They don't know who they are. So her antidote was learning to love yourself and learn that you're good enough. Ernest Holmes spoke about the power that we have. You know, the power, we have such power because we are individualizations of the one power. We're more than good enough. We exist as points of power within the very mind of God. You know, everyone you look at is part of the divine. You're one with the one. So the idea that you're powerless, or that you're not good enough, is certainly a concept that you brought upon yourself. We want to be free of all this stuff, all this negative thinking, all this unenlightened thinking. In our need to figure it out, there's been many systems that have been created in humankind. We've had philosophies that have sprung up, sciences, educational systems. People are looking for security. I guess that was the point of Theodore Becker's book, The Denial of Death. People are looking for security in any way they can. And religions have been formulated over time to allay the fear of humankind relative to their soul in the here and the hereafter. We want so much to live in a world where there is a sense of security, freedom, and liberty. As we grasp for solutions, we must be very certain that we don't swap one image of bondage for another. We've done this before in jobs. We've done this in relationships. We've done this in all kinds of things. Looking for security. You grab this, it doesn't work. You keep looking for it outside of yourself. A lot of the world history, at least the religious and philosophic history, traded one kind of religion for another as they moved forward. And it wasn't always a good thing, but it was humankind trying to move forward. The pilgrims that came to the shores of New England came to worship a God in their own way. And then within a number of years, that freedom got completely suppressed by the will of the majority. You might think back of Salem and what happened there. That wasn't freedom. The freedom was trampled, as were other people, as were the freedoms of other people who inhabited the country in areas that when they arrived. Even with our newer religions, most during the last 100 years, where people say they have found the truth, then unfortunately, they don't attempt really to embrace it. We have such an exquisite teaching, but the question is, do we practice it? Or you can come to a center and hear a great talk by Reverend Judith or Robert, myself, and we can get all excited about it ourselves, but then do we practice it in our day-to-day living? Do we live it? Those are big questions. A practitioner in this teaching doesn't just come to center once in a while. They get involved in the classes and they practice the presence. None of us can sit on what we learned years ago. I remember having a student in Miami who told me, I took those courses 18 years ago and I have no intention of taking them ever again. And she was a very miserable person. You don't need to be taking the classes every year, but it would be helpful. It would be helpful to plug in and stay plugged in because it will cause you to remember. If you're studying history, governments and systems of thought over the last few thousand years, it seems it's difficult for the human mind to conceive of freedom for everybody. And we can only give birth to freedom in a society when we get to that place. It's an inside job. In other words, I have to have that kind of freedom for myself. True freedom, true liberty has something divine behind it. All of us are evolving toward it. All of life is evolving towards it. It's the time has come that the modern science has proved that we cannot move a piece of paper without changing the balance of the entire physical universe. If we've come to know the place where we know that the stuff which our physical bodies is everything that's in me, the stuff that is within me is the stuff that the planets are made of. If we've come to the place where there's such a profound unity, and we know that, or at least our scientists know that, there is this energy that permeates everything. The physicists believe that there's no such thing as disunity in the physical world. If you come to this place where you realize that you're part of everything else, then you can easily see what the great spiritual leaders of the ages meant when they told us that greater unity in which we all live and move and have our being. They speak of this. There is this unity. Everything's connected to everything else. And that idea of freedom itself is tied up with the true concept of the unity of God or good. If our nature is one, our actual physical nature is one, if God is one, and we know that God must be one, for the universe cannot be divided against itself, then we are all tied up into this indivisible unity. So you live, move, have your being in God, plain and simple. And the universe is trying to woo you all the time, get your attention, plain and simple. Some of you listen, some of you don't, some of you pay attention, some of you don't. I remember teaching religious science to the kids when I was younger. We typify it by a stagecoach, and then there's the team of Wells stallions out in front representing power. If you're in your cocoon in your stagecoach, you're not using your power, then your horses are going to drag you all over God's creation. You're going to hit walls and go over ravines. But if you get out of the coach, get up on the reins and take the reins, which represent your executive power, your ability to decide, you get to go far. You get to direct the power. So there's power for good, and you can use it to good effect. So please don't talk to me or anybody around here about you have no power and ain't it awful and poor you, because you have plenty of power. And as I think of this holiday, this is a good holiday to realize that I am free and all the universe is supporting me. You got to get back, though, to the original meaning, the unity, and realizing you're one with life, and there is that power within you. Nothing in any part of the cosmic whole could be considered freedom that would destroy the liberty of any other part of it. So it's got to be freedom for everybody. Jesus pointed out 2,000 years ago that would be a kingdom divided against itself. The kingdom of God is one kingdom, and that's the only way it'll ever work, for true liberty must spring from true unity. We are bound into a supreme unity. We are tied into a immutable law of cause and effect. That is unity moving into action. Cause and effect is something that happens as a result of the use of unity. Consequently, we are one, even while we are many. And since each one of us is part of the whole, if we seek to destroy one another, we only ultimately hurt ourselves. That's a great lesson of life. Love your brother as yourself, because he or she, in fact, part of you. So we don't want to hurt anybody ever. If we're smart, if we're strong, we're here to thrive and shine. We live in the consciousness where we know nothing and no one is against us. If you're carrying these crosses and these burdens and blaming and all that stuff, you're only hurting yourself. So have the willingness to let that go if you can. If you can't, come to the classes, because we keep working on these ideas. Nothing we teach or believe causes us to think that spirit wants us to suffer. What kind of a universe has a God who suffers and then imposes suffering on its creation? We don't believe in any of this. Old religious traditions and those that cling to ideas that people must be saved or people must be redeemed must eventually go away. Most of them have gone away. They are based on fear, they're dualistic in their thought, and they only give solace to the fearful. People are suffering everywhere, it's a fact. Misery, though, is optional. And as Emerson said, suffering is not God ordained. I think that was Holmes. We might say that the world suffered darkness until somebody discovered electricity. It suffered crawling around on the face of the earth until technology was developed so we could fly and drive. The world at large suffers limitation, not because the infinite imposes limitation, but because we do not understand our freedom. And when it begins to develop, when freedom begins to develop, seldom does it do so directly and easily. Often it is steps forward and backward. It generally creates a new bondage that is a little better than what preceded it, but life is still always moving forward. When we kill off one old devil, we are very likely to give birth to a new one, a more subtle one. Final freedom will come only as it's tied into divine wisdom and knowing. What is that? What is divine wisdom and knowing? It's as simple and as profound as this. Life and its people cannot be divided against itself. Life and its people cannot be divided against itself, any more than I can be divided against me. So we got to straighten that stuff out within ourselves. That's divine wisdom. This presence, this energy is everywhere and everyone's in it. It cannot be divided. So long as we seek to hurt, we will be hurt. Whatever you put out, it's going to come back. We desire freedom, every last one of us. We do not like evil. We don't like pain. We don't like poverty, and we don't like unhappiness. None of us likes to go to sleep with worry. I know I don't. You wake up tired, and you really like to have peace, operating in you. There is within you, again, this power, this connection with spirit. We can sense it, so we can have freedom. We can sense liberty. We can sense God. In our day-to-day living, out there in the street, so to speak, you can see all kinds of limitation. You can see people in reaction everywhere. You can see the fighting. You can see everything. Just walk through the streets of New York or wherever you live. Who are they? And what are they doing? And you see all the conflict between people. And, you wish they could get what we get here. It seems as though we're two people, one that experiences lack and limitation, and one that knows that God is all that there is. So this is the paradox we find ourselves. The evolution of freedom in the human consciousness is a painfully slow process. Many movements in the world that claim to be seeking liberty only produce new kinds of bondage for themselves and their movements. Perhaps better than before, but not the ideal. The artist will keep painting, and the artist is pained that his or her work is not yet what they want. Maybe it's like this with us too. Maybe we keep chipping away at it, trying to make better versions of ourselves. If we want freedom, we must understand that freedom can never come by imposition of a will of one group over another. It's born finally in such degree when individuals are freed and they do not, in their freedom, impose bondage upon anyone else. I believe that the true spirit of democracy is a spiritual conception where there is freedom, liberty, and a flexibility that allows for change and evolution. Or the institutions themselves will work against freedom. We work to perfect our democracy as we work to perfect ourselves. As we enter into the spirit and the meaning of Independence Day, the day when liberty symbolically was conceived, the day when freedom was announced, we want to think of it not merely as a form of government, but as a spiritual idea, an idea of spirit itself taking form in human experience. As we learn to love this freedom, this liberty, we want to learn to tenderly and prayerfully handle the embodiment of that idea. We want to learn to listen a little bit more, learn a little bit more, cherish the differences that we have with others, celebrating the one life behind it all. nurture life always into greater expression. Religious scientists are the cheerleaders, the applauders. We have no need to criticize anybody. We love and we nurture the idea of a government of the people, by the people, for the people, that will not perish from the earth. So that's essentially it, but there's a couple little anecdotal things I think I'll share. Who here remembers Jonathan Livingston Segal? I know Judith does. Some of you might, right? I'm going to give you a couple points of wisdom from the great gull himself. The only true law is that which leads to freedom. That was Jonathan Livingston Segal. Now, there are a bunch of gulls. I'm not going to give you the whole story, you know, traveling around with Jonathan Livingston Segal. He's like the super gull, right? One of them's name is Kirk, and he's wobbling across and barely able to walk. And he says, "Help me," speaking up to the great gull. And Kirk says, "I want to fly more than anything else in the world." And that's some of you here. You want to fly more than anything else in the world. And so Jonathan said, "Come along, come with me." I could say that to anybody in religious science. All these people I've listened to throughout my life say, "Well, come, you can do this. You can do this, but you have to show up every week on Thursday night and Sundays. You can do this. You can have the kind of life you want. You can fly." So Jonathan said, "Come along." And Kirk says, "But you don't understand me, and you don't understand my wing and my troubles, and you don't understand. I can't do this and I can't do that." And Jonathan said, "You have the freedom to be yourself, your true self, here and now. And nothing can stand in your way. It's the law of the great gull, the law that is." "Are you saying I can fly?" said Kirk. "Are you saying I am free?" And as quickly as that, he spread his wings and followed Jonathan, the great gull, and he was lifted into the night air. And all the flock started to wake up when they saw Kirk flying, the one who was always complaining. And Kirk says, "I can fly, I can fly," right? Then the big gull, Jonathan, spoke of simple things, great things. He says, "It is right for the gull to fly." And I would say to you all, it's right for you to fly, and it's right for you to have independence. Whatever stands against that freedom must be set aside, be it a ritual or a superstition, an old religion, in any form. I'll say that again. That freedom is the very nature of his being. And Jonathan said, there's a slide there, whatever stands against that freedom must be set aside, be it a ritual or a superstition or limitation in any form. And then came from the gulls who were not awake, set aside, even if it is the law of the flock or the law of the land. And Jonathan said, "The only true law is that which leads to freedom. There is no other." And the multitude, the masses, again, remember the masses who don't know too much. How do you expect us to fly as you fly? You are special, you are gifted, you have this knowledge and all the rest, right? Everybody here on this call, the extended call, and the message from Jonathan Livingston Segal is that you're all special and you're all gifted and you all have the capability to do anything that anyone has ever done before. The only difference, the very only one, is that they have begun to understand what they really are, and they have begun to practice it. And so ends today's lesson in independence and freedom. Thank you.